Hey folks, Bob Desmond here over at the Contrarian Trader, and what we're going to be talking about today, yet again, is Boeing. I did a video a number of months ago about Boeing and whether it was a buy, sell, or hold, and now is appropriate time to revisit it. For full disclosure, I have a position in Boeing. I don't own the stock. I'm not short the stock, but I do have an options position in Boeing, and I'm going to need to manage that trade tomorrow. And that trade is called an iron condor. We'll talk about that later on and how I plan on managing that trade. And we'll talk about the technical analysis. But really quick, what we want to talk about first is A, what happened? B, what to expect on Monday, and not just Monday morning. I'm talking Monday across the board, what to expect in terms of news and price action with Boeing. We'll talk about the woes of Boeing, where it's been in terms of share price over the past 5 odd years, and where I think that it's going to go. And then we'll segue over into my position, how we plan on managing it, and what our game plan is going into the new trading week. So if you're not familiar with the channel, please like, subscribe. We're going live tonight, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There is some news out of CalPERS, California State Pension Fund, which does not look bullish, so we'll be watching the futures action tonight as well. So, again, like, subscribe, comment. And what we had on Friday, let me share my screen. What we had on Friday was news out of Alaska Air that one of their flights saw a door blow out. That one seat was ripped out of the airplane. Thank God it wasn't occupied. Apparently there are some injuries and no life loss. Thank God. What I will say up front is that this incident, which Boeing has had a string of, this incident with the Boeing 737 MAX 8 is not the same incident that we've seen in the past that grounded the 737 in recent years. And there is some good news here to be had for traders. So again, stick around to the back half of this video. Now, subsequent to the incident on Friday, the FAA came out and grounded the certain 737 MAX planes. Not all of them. Not all of them. There's only a few planes that have been grounded. So there's over 2,000 of these jets in the air, yet there's only a small fraction that have been grounded, and some of them may be returning to the skies sooner than you think. More to come on that in a moment. Now, a little bit of a timeline of events on Boeing. Back on October the 29th of 2018, a Lion Air crash caused the share price of Boeing to decline due to a software issue. Then 5 months later, you had an Ethiopian Airlines crash on March the 1st of 2019. And from that point forward, Boeing stock went into a consolidation. Now, the key thing to point out here is that, as I mentioned earlier, that the event that took place on Friday is not the same issue that occurred back in 2018 and 2019. And as a reminder, there are over 2,000 of this jet in the air. Now, this is obviously the MAX 8. Not all of those planes are the MAX 8. Now they're developing the MAX 9 and the MAX 10. So what I believe is going to happen tomorrow with the share price of Boeing is what's already begun, is a concerted effort on the part of the media and on the part of Wall Street to hammer, simply hammer these share prices. How are they going to be able to successfully do this? And I do believe that they are going to be able to successfully do this. It's something called recency bias. The chart you have in front of you right now reflects a stock which has been beaten up dramatically, meaning it had the two crashes, 2018, 2019, but then you had another event which took not only Boeing down, but the S&P 500 down, and that, of course, was COVID. Now, Boeing obviously fared much worse than the S&P 500 due to the fact that we had lockdowns. Nobody was traveling whatsoever. Add to the woes of Boeing, the 2 crashes and the groundings that they had a couple of years earlier. So the recipe for disaster was in place for Boeing right at the time that COVID struck. Now, fast forward to recent days, you'll note that as of 2022, the revenue of Boeing has begun to climb up. The share price has also hit highs recently at $267.54. Now, keep in mind, this is coming off of a low of about $89 back during the pandemic crash. Now, the highs seen recently are highs that we haven't seen since March of 2021. So the share price has more than doubled since the COVID lows. But unlike the rest of the S&P 500, has yet to reach record highs. It is still below those COVID highs. So what I think you're going to experience tomorrow is a lot of recency bias. All people really remember is that Boeing has experienced a massive correction and it has really underperformed the S&P 500 over the past few years. But I don't think that the price action that you saw back during COVID is going to repeat itself. Nor do I think that the price action that we saw back during the post-Lion Air crash, which was a 24.4% decline, nor do I think that we're going to have a 28.1% decline post the Ethiopian Airlines crash, and certainly not anything consistent with the COVID crash. I think what you're going to be looking at tomorrow, and I've been doing this for over 25 years, so let me take a step back. What I think you're going to be walking into tomorrow and the mindset that you need to have is one that if you're a trader for any length of time, you're going to be long of a stock or trading a stock into an earnings report, and that report is not going to go your way. You're going to get the incredible sinking feeling, which I immediately got when I saw the news with the Alaska Airlines incident. Thank God nobody was severely injured. Now, the way you need to look at this event, or the way as a trader you need to go into tomorrow, is with the mindset that the street's going to be against you. The media is going to be against you. Wall Street is probably going to wake up. You're going to see downgrade after downgrade of Boeing. You're probably going to see Goldman Sachs come out with a downgrade of the shares. But here's the game they play. They're going to downgrade it to, I don't even know what it is right now, but for sake of argument, they'll downgrade it from outperform to market perform, downgrade the share price from $312 down to $280. That's still above where we're trading at current, yet they've downgraded it. They did their job. They're hammering the share price down because all they want is the headline out there to hammer the share price out, to shake you out of your shares, so that way they can buy them on the cheap. That's what's going to happen tomorrow. It is pure manipulation of the share price. I'm not complaining about the game being rigged as long as you're aware of the game being rigged. This time next year, absent a major correction in the overall stock market, and God forbid a crash or a horrible event with a Boeing plane, I suspect that the share price of Boeing is going to be higher than where it is going to be at the highs of going into this new year. Why? This is an event that is isolated to very few planes. It is an event that the media loves because it gets everybody all excited. If it bleeds, it leads. But this time next week, nobody is going to be talking about Boeing unless, of course, Boeing puts himself back in the spotlight again. So the way we're planning on trading or managing our position tomorrow is that what we're long of is what you call a short iron condor, meaning we sold to open a call contract. Here's the structure right in front of you. We sold to open a call contract, but we put an insurance policy on the other side of that call contract just in case the share price went against us to the upside. Simultaneously, we also sold to open a put contract, but also we bought to open a put just below it, just in case something like this happens, what you call a binary event, and the share price plunges. So I have a max loss going into tomorrow that I know that I'm willing to lose. It's part of the game. So does that mean I'm going to lose money? Probably not, because I can always roll the trade out. I'm not going to panic. I'll probably sell more calls tomorrow against the position, and selling calls is a bearish bet, meaning I'm going to put more of a hedge on in addition to my current hedge. And one thing I didn't mention is I've already rolled down those calls, booking a profit, making them real, and bringing down my hedge even lower as the recent share prices have calmed down as well. Might I short some shares tomorrow? Maybe. It's quite possible that I'll do that for a couple of days, but I'm not a day trader. So I don't want to have to worry overnight that that short I put on is going to go against me, because this time next week, the share price of Boeing, don't be shocked if it's unchanged from where it was on Friday. Is that perhaps pie in the sky? Yes, of course it is. But I want to put things into context, because context matters. And while I do believe that tomorrow is going to be what you call a one-sided day, what does that mean? A one-sided day means is that there is no bid. It's just selling across the board. Every purchase is going to be sold into, every rally is going to be sold into, and that's a one-sided day. So I'm not going to be buying a dip tomorrow. I'm not going to be trying to average down. I think that's a sucker's bet. I think you need to wait for the share price to come down to a support level. We're going to talk about that support level in a moment. We'll have a few of them out there because we don't know if we're going to slice right through the first support level tomorrow morning. We may just do that. So as a technician, as a trader, what I always like to do, and I've already showed you this chart a couple of times already because it matters. You can see what I've already done my homework as we proceed into the new trading week. Now, as you can see here, Lion Air crash. That crash caused the share price to drop 24.4%. That's a huge drop, okay? But it was only a few months later where the share price went on to make new 52-week highs. Think about it. Then you fast forward to the Ethiopian Air crash, and the shares dropped 28% from those 52-week highs. They never took out the lows of the Lion Air crash, which is at 289.21. The low of the post-Ethiopian Air crash was 324.78. So not only did we not crash, we didn't even take out the lows from 5 months prior. The only reason why the price of Boeing stock cratered and has never recovered is due to the fact that you had China, which stopped taking orders, and B was the fact that you had COVID hit, and the mix of the COVID shutdown, the mix of the repairs needing to get done to the fleet of planes that were out there. So the incidents that have been plaguing Boeing on this airliner didn't repeat themselves, have been very, very costly. In fact, if you go back to 2022, the share price was down dramatically. The reason why the share price was down dramatically was not isolated to Boeing. Let's take a look at a chart of the S&P 500 versus the price of Boeing. You could see that both went down because the year of 2022 was a very, very bad, it was a bear market. So it wasn't just simply a Boeing bad year, it was a stock market bad year across the board. But now what the markets are forecasting is a rate cut in March of 2024. If we expect a rate cut in March of 2024, in all probability, while we may get a shakeout here on Boeing and perhaps even a continuation shakeout on the overall stock market, in all probability, we are going to hit support and we are going to rally off the lows, because money is made when you buy the dips. Thank God, again, nobody was injured here. But this, if it bleeds, it leads, is viewed by some as, oh my God, we need to go running for the hills. I need to sell my stock. That's okay if you're a trader and you're on margin, you need to stop out of the trade. I understand that. The however is, if you're an investor and you're accumulating a position, then selling the shares now because you don't want to take a big loss is probably foolish. It's foolhardy. If you have capital, you may want to watch for the shares to stop going down, look for a support level. And in fact, let's talk about those support levels right now. Let me put on my glasses. Now, the technical analysis portion of you is brought to you by TrendSpider. And as you can see here, what we're looking at is a weekly chart of Boeing. And we have had a dramatic rally off of the lows of November of 2023. And we recently hit a high of 267.54. We have retraced off of those highs, hitting a low of late of 238.69. Why do we bounce there? Because we have support right at that level. Now, I believe that in all probability, we are going to overshoot to the downside below that mark tomorrow. Where I would be looking to find support is right here at around 238.85 per share. As you can see here, that acted as resistance back in August of 2023. Now, if that fails, then we will probably head down to a 230 per share on Boeing. So I think that if you have the capital, and you should always have what I call net lick, it's 50% of your capital as available to you to take advantage of situations like this, whether it's a defense of your current position or to accumulate more shares when the public is running for the hills, afraid. Because believe me, tomorrow, the professional Wall Street traders are going to be looking to buy Boeing stock. Probably not tomorrow. They may be nibbling tomorrow, but in the coming days and weeks, they are going to be accumulating shares, taking advantage of the fear that they will be instilling in you tomorrow, vis-a-vis their downgrades, vis-a-vis their influence in the media. So expect nothing but doom and gloom over the next few days. That's par for the course. You're going to think that there's no light at the end of the tunnel. Understand the game. You are being manipulated. Now, what could cause the share price of Boeing to continue to fall? Well, what could cause the share price of Boeing to continue to fall would be cancellation of future orders. That would be a major problem. Now, the good news is, and nobody wants to talk about this, especially not this weekend, but as of December the 23rd, China began accepting delivery of new 737s after a 4-year hiatus. This is what the street doesn't want you to look at. But this is what I'm sharing with you now. There is more light at the end of the tunnel than there is doom and gloom. This is an isolated event. We hope, of course. Now, if this becomes a trend, different story. Now, if you have groundings of the Boeing 737 from other countries as well, that could be a problem in the short term for Boeing. Those planes are already sold. The however is, it's still more headline risk. So in the short term, what you're going to be contending with is headline risk in the marketplace, whether it be downgrades or cancellations or governments intervening. The good news is that while Boeing is still running at a loss, their EPS growth is beginning to increase by about 45%, according to Investors Business Daily. Their sales are increasing by 13%. And as you can see by the chart, the trend of their EPS and revenue growth is improving, but nowhere near yet where it was prior to the pandemic. Now, earnings will be coming out on January the 31st. I believe it's in the pre-market. At current, the shares, according to Investors Business Daily and as reflected by the current share price, they are being accumulated by major institutions. The other thing that Boeing has going for it, it's one of the largest employers in the United States. If they ground a tremendous amount of these airliners in a presidential election year, guess what? Those are layoffs during a presidential election year. The FAA is going to be under a lot of pressure not to be too stringent with Boeing. Now, wanting to leave this off on a very positive note, for those that are really stewing over the weekend, worried about Monday morning, Alaska Airlines has already completed the inspection of 18 of their 737 MAX 8 jets and have returned them to service. And they expect that the remaining inspections should be completed over the next several days. So again, I want to implore, and I try to teach this to members all the time, is that the knee-jerk reaction to a news event is generally the wrong reaction. In this case, it could take several days for the share price to recover, if not several weeks. But if you're a long-term investor, in my opinion, there is nothing to worry about, because the street, which is now currently accumulating shares of Boeing, will continue to add more shares on this panic that we're going to see tomorrow morning. Now, a phrase I like to use during this type of situation is that fortune favors the bold. If you have the wherewithal, you're not on margin, you have the capital to put to work, wait for a support level to get hit. We'll revisit this in the coming days. Join our live streams. We go live Thursday night, Friday, Sunday night, and we'll revisit this in the coming days and weeks. And we'll see whether or not Boeing has hit an appropriate support level and whether or not it's time to go stepping back in. But there will be a light at the end of the tunnel here. I can assure you of that. Hopefully, I'll see you tonight, Sunday Night Futures Live, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Link below. Talk to you soon. Be well, folks.